Hey everyone. Okay, so yeah, this episode did go down the road I expected it to, which is it interspliced chapter 23 in the flashback to Shin's past with the chapters covering the fight with Mad Hotoguchi. And once again, this is a decision on the enemy's part I do really like, as it reinforced just how far Shin has come and also just how much he has grown since leaving the lab, which yeah, let's just get right into the meat of that backstory, because the whole flashback sequence reveals so much of not only what led to Shin gaining clairvoyance, but also what caused the rift between him and Asakura, which in itself, when you really look at what happened here, it really just boils down to a failure to understand each other's point of view. Even despite Shin, despite all the knowing looks and negative thoughts he was getting from the other scientists, and after gaining his powers, he still had a positive outlook, because in his mind, Asakura's experiments were a success. It's thanks to him gaining these powers that he was able to show that yeah, Asakura, you succeeded. Your research is your research is viable. It can work. The only thing Shin wanted was acknowledgement and acceptance of that fact. Like, all Asakura had to do was acknowledge his experiments was a success, and that would have been enough for Shin. Because however much the other scientists feared him, he could have endured all their scorn, so long as Asakura himself accepted him. But Asakura, on the other hand, was after Shin gained his powers, Asakura himself was basically drowning in guilt and self-pity, to the point where he couldn't even see anything else other than his own failure. And ironically, that hardened belief that he ruined Shin's life is what drove the wedge between them, and ultimately caused Shin to run away, as the one person that Shin loved and looked up to couldn't accept him. But of course, when comparing that to how much Shin has grown since then and the kind of person he is now, it's a nice contrast of showing Shin doesn't have that same animosity he did back then. And when the scientists apologized, it was a nice moment of him saying, I like my powers now. I'm in a better place now than I was back then. Like, Shin has come. Shin, it's sort of backwards development in a way, where compared to Shin's past, Shin has become a much more fleshed out and more realized and realized character now in his adulthood. And it is kind of I think it is meant to show that yeah, we definitely change. Over time, we do definitely change, and we grow from how we are as kids. Um, Now, in saying that, let's talk about the fight with Horiguchi himself, because as I alluded to last episode, when reading this in the manga, up until the point where Horiguchi hulks out, when reading the manga, I did like this fight up until the point where Horiguchi hulks out, because it was at that point where it did feel like Suzuki, while having a great concept for Horiguchi's character and abilities, didn't factor in the question of how to beat him, so just fell back on making him this giant Hulk beast for Taro and Shin to kick the shit out of. And while there is still a little bit of that feeling in this fight, admittedly my feelings in the climax have changed a bit, in the sense where Horiguchi's Hulkish form, it doesn't feel as much like it comes out of nowhere like I initially thought. The fact that we see Horiguchi continuously pumping himself with drugs throughout the fight, yeah, it would make sense that a natural conclusion would be for him to becoming this giant monster. And ultimately, I do still like how Taro utilizes Shin's abilities in order to defeat Horiguchi, in order to overcome the reversal effects. It's just like, it is it is one of those things, though. I think where it comes down to a factor of pacing. Like, I think that's the one problem I still do have with this fight, is it all just comes down to a factor of, like, maybe things move a little too fast in order for it to feel, in order to feel the transition from one thing to another feel natural enough, I think. And yeah, the rest of the episode pretty much adapts the beginning of the confrontation with Kashima. And to start off, this is kind of more or less what I was talking about with Shiba and Osaragi. Once Sakamoto arrived on the scene, they kind of dipped from the entire arc after this fact, dealing with after dealing with Kashima's men, and again, that's kind of the last we'll see of both Shishiba and Osaragi for a while, I think. Like, they're still gonna pop up, obviously, but like, as far as this arc's concerned, yeah, it's that was the limit of how much involvement they have in this arc, and and but again, I think all that was very much intentional, only giving us a brief display of what they're capable of for later in the story. Now, in saying that, there is one bit of weirdness with this section, which is that in the manga, Shishiba uses the claw of his hammer in order to snap Mashima's neck, and the way he does it, he positions the claw right above Kashima's forehead, and basically snaps it like that. But but and while the same, I guess you could say the same thing more or less happens in the anime, the way the scene was storyboarded in the anime makes it look like Shishiba hit him so hard it twisted his neck. Like, rather than actually use the claw to shift his head, he used like the actual head of the hammer, which he didn't. But the way it's storyboarded makes it look like that, and it's one of those weird. This is one of those weird little censorship things again that makes me once again question why. You're already showing blood in the show. Why are you finicky with these little details? Like, it's in the broad scheme, how they're handling a lot of this content is great, but it's in these smaller details you wouldn't think, where again things feel weird in how they're constructing some of these scenes. I don't know why. And of course it's not, but anyway, it's not only the battle with Kashima that was set up, as we also get the setup of a rematch between Shin and Saba, with Heisuke coming in with the save near the end. And yeah, I did love Shin's snappy, quick thinking that thanks to his clairvoyance, he knew Heisuke was there, so he marked Seba for him to shoot. Again, a nice little scene that really shows, like, yeah, his clairvoyance again is become much more useful to him than it was for him in the past. In saying that, I'd be lying if I said this episode gave me a better grasp on how this core will end, because now I'm even more confused. Because even if the next episode only focuses on adapting the fight with Seba, that would only leave episode 10 to adapt the fight with Kashima, and that one's pretty quick. So yeah, with only 3 chapters left, these last couple episodes, I think, promise to be very interesting at the very least, and I don't think it's and it's just like, if no matter which way I look at it, there is going to be like at least one final episode where one episode left hanging, where I'm like, what are they going to do with that final episode kind of question. But again, I guess we'll just wait and see. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. Enjoy the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Blue Sky, Analyst, Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of the Night signing off. Later, everyone.